So a lot of talk. President Obama is going to be giving a big speech this month about NSA and what corrections or modifications or reforms that he thinks are due at that agency. And, of course, a subset of all of that is what to do about Edward Snowden. We wouldn't even know about these abuses of NSA were it not for Edward Snowden, one organization that has supported amnesty for Edward Snowden is Human Rights Watch. The senior national researcher for Human Rights Watch, Laura Peter, joins us on our newsline this morning. Hey, Laura, good morning. Good to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
What's the status of Edward Snowden today? Does he have a job? Is he making any money? Is he living in exile? What do you know? Some of your people have been there and met with him. I know that.
Yeah, well, there are reports that he was going to get a job. I'm not sure if that's the case now, but he does have temporary asylum in Russia that is going to expire in about 6 months. So, other countries, he's said he's interested in asylum in other countries and also, of course, would like to come back to the United States.
Are there other countries interested in him? I saw some reports over the weekend about conversations with Brazil. No? Or...
Right. I mean, I think he's been open about the fact that he would like to receive asylum there. Whether or not they will ultimately grant that, I don't know. They obviously should consider asylum, given that he faces prosecution against unfair charges here in the U.S. under the Espionage Act. It are valid claims for persecution here. So those claims for asylum should be taken very seriously by the countries.
Well, that's a serious charge, claims of persecution here that you say should be taken seriously. But what do you say? I mean, look, I believe Edward Snowden is a whistleblower and performed a public service, okay? But putting my personal beliefs aside, how do you respond to the fact he did break the law, and he has been charged with violating the law? So having to stand trial and defend himself, is that equal persecution?
Well, yes, because the charges that he faces here, which have not been used very frequently in the United States, only in the last few years has the Obama administration, brought, I think now we're up to now 7 cases using the Espionage Act. You're not able to present a public interest defense, meaning that you're not able to show that whatever you disclosed was in the public interest and outweighed any harms that were caused. So those charges in and of themselves, we believe, shouldn't be used against anyone until they are fixed, until you can present a public interest defense. National security whistleblowers in the United States really have no avenues for reporting wrongdoing or abuse. Even the President's own review group, which recently issued the sweeping report about reforms that should be made in the national security context, said that the protections for national security whistleblowers in the United States are inadequate.
So he had a national security clearance, right? And he had agreed, I don't know whether he did so under oath or whatever, but he had agreed that I have access to these documents and I have an obligation to keep them secret and not to release them. And yet he went ahead and released them. So he did break the law, didn't he?
Well, there's a good argument that he did. He has been saying that he agreed to just uphold the Constitution and that he agreed to accept the terms of the contract. But that would be some sort of civil dispute. The charges that he faces under the Espionage Act are charges that he, made these disclosures in order to harm the United States. And you don't have any possibility of adequately defending yourself against those charges. In the U.S., we decline to prosecute people all the time for lots of reasons. And it's, I think, important to recognize that the U.S. should own some sort of responsibility in this case, to accept the fact that it, does not provide an adequate avenue for national security whistleblowers to report abuse, and also that the charges that they're using here don't adequately provide the defendant the ability to defend himself against those charges. So the U.S. should own the responsibility in the Snowden affair and decline to prosecute in this case where, what Snowden exposed has sparked this really important national debate and allowed Americans to understand what the government was doing, what it was authorizing in secret by secret court.
Right. Now, this whole issue has gotten, of course, a lot of attention here in Washington, and there was an interesting exchange over the weekend where Senator Rand Paul was interviewed, and he said he thought that Edward Snowden should have to face trial, but but no life in prison and certainly no death penalty, but just a light prison sentence for what he has done. He was followed by Congressman Peter King from New York, who not only went out on the attack against Edward Snowden, but against Senator Rand Paul. Here's what Peter King, had to say about Senator Rand Paul.
He doesn't deserve to be in the United States Senate for spreading that type of misperception and absolute lies, to be honest with you.
Rand Paul doesn't even deserve to be in the United States Senate for what he says about Edward Snowden, according to Peter King. So pretty hot issue here in Washington, Laura.
Yeah, it does. It generates a lot of controversy and debate. For us, for the Human Rights Watch, there's no question that he should be given, treated with leniency, and that the U.S. should not prosecute him in this case.
Do you, and what are you doing about that? I mean, what can you do about that? Are you circulating a petition, or you?
Well, we make our views known to people who are working on these issues in the U.S. government. We talk to policymakers, and he does have legal counsel who's represented by the ACLU. So we work, making our views known to policymakers and advocating for that.
If Edward Snowden had stayed in this country, do you believe that he would have had the opportunity to work through the system, to let his superiors know, I don't think this is right. I think we should question what we're doing here and bring about any changes from working within the system?
No. Even the president's own review panel that issued a report several weeks ago about the whole NSA scandal and recommending reforms admitted that the current protections for national security whistleblowers are inadequate because, one, they don't protect contractors, and two, they don't allow for the individual to complain to a independent body. They have to go to somebody in their direct chain of command, which engenders all sorts of retribution. So that's one of the reasons why we think that clemency or some kind of amnesty makes sense here, because there was no real avenue for Snowden to bring these claims to the public, and especially senators themselves were not able to make these issues debate them in the public. Senator White and Senator Udall for years were trying to bring these to the public light and allow some kind of public accountability, and they weren't able to do so themselves.